Hello and welcome to the final edition of Business Incorporated for the week. I am Bisi Adebayo. On the show today, World Bank says remittances to developing countries fell for a second consecutive year in 2016. Plus, Zimbabwean tobacco farmers lament over lack of access to money from tobacco sales despite high annual auctions. And a sharp drop in world prices of cocoa forces Ivory Coast to cut planned spending for 2017. Well, let's get the show started, and we begin in the markets here in Africa, where all the numbers except the EGX 30 are in the red. Nigeria's all-share index was down at intraday with a 0.21%, while the JSA index was down 0.34% at intraday, and the NSE all-share index was also in the red, down 0.11%, while Egypt tilted northwards by 0.08% on Thursday, and Kenya closed in the red by 0.02% also on Thursday. And in the Middle East, profit-taking and weak first quarter earnings weighed on Gulf stock markets on Thursday. The Dubai's index lost 1.0% as financially troubled builder Arabtech, which had jumped almost 11% on Wednesday, also dropped while shareholders approved its capital restructuring plan and retreated 4.4%. Profit taken in other shares, however, pulled the Abu Dhabi index down 0.2%. The Saudi index lost 0.7% as almost two-thirds of listed petrochemical shares fell, with heavyweight Saudi Basic Industries dropping 1.3%. And in Europe, investors are seemingly focused on earnings reports today, but politics and fresh data are also firmly on the radar. France is also dealing with a suspected terror attack in Paris in the wake of the upcoming election on Sunday. Well, for details, let's talk to Conrad Boulson, my colleague in Frankfurt. Hello, Conrad. How's the market, particularly the French stocks, reacting to the suspected terror attacks in Paris in the wake of the upcoming elections this weekend?
Well, BC, in terms of prices, there's no detectable reaction on the share markets. The French leading share index is slightly lower. The German share index, DAX, slightly higher this morning, or this afternoon. Look at this. This looks more spectacular than it is. The DAX is only up 0.4%. No clear reaction. The market continues to go sideways. But terror is playing a role here today, especially in Germany, and that has to do with another case. Last week, bombs were planted next to the tour bus of the German major Bundesliga football team, Borussia Dortmund. At the time last week, of course, everyone suspected Islamist terror. Turns out the background of this attack was attempted market manipulation. Police have arrested a man today, and they told us that this man, before allegedly planting those bombs next to the tour bus of this football team, bought stock options for the shares of Borussia Dortmund. You know, the football club is also a listed company here in Frankfurt. So the guy speculated that planting those bombs and having them explode would influence the share price of Borussia, which would allow him, with his options, to profit from this. Turns out it didn't work out. He was not only arrested, but also the security and, supervising screens, the computer supervisors of stock and option tradings really showed, oh, there was unusual movement. Let's take a closer look at this. And they really found out about this guy like this. This is the major story driving trading here in Frankfurt today. And I can say it's good that the overall reaction to the Paris attack is so subdued. The market is not really overreacting, at least, to this Paris attack.
Well, apart from the Paris attacks, investors also have their eyes on the PMI. Can you talk us through the numbers coming from the Eurozone, especially coming from France and Germany?
Yes, I can, and you're right. We should talk about the economic stuff again. Those numbers, they are looking really good. The overall Purchasing Managers Index, PMI, for the Eurozone is stronger. The German one came in slightly lower, but at 56.3 points. The German Purchasing Managers Index still indicates growth very nicely. Every reading above 50 points means the economy is growing. The real positive surprise is France. The index there was expected by a majority of economists to go downwards because mainly, of course, of the upcoming election, which will start in France next Sunday. And it was expected that business people would be a bit reluctant. Turns out they're not. The Purchasing Managers Index increased 0.6 points to 56.8, and this means that the French purchasing managers are even more upbeat about their outlook than the German ones.
Well, finally, before I let you go, Conrad, it's the final trading day of the week. Can you wrap up the trading week and, of course, give us an outlook for next week?
Well, lots of companies reported earnings this week. Goldman Sachs, for example, Unilever, Volkswagen, BMW. But I have to say, despite the fact that the majority of those earnings report came in really better than what analysts had forecast, the market went sideways. The DAX is standing there right now pretty much unchanged compared to the last trading day before Easter, and the same is the case with the majority of European stocks. Again, what's happening in the political world, the elections in France mostly, were on investors' minds, and as they don't know what the outcome will be of this election, investors prefer to stay on the sideline. This election in France, the most foreseeably first round of the president election on Sunday, will be the dominating factor for trading on the markets, at least in Europe, on Monday. And depending on what the outcome of this election on Sunday will be, this has the potential to really rattle the markets next week, all week. We will be getting lots of earnings reports again. Philips, McDonald's, Boeing, Daimler, Deutsche Börse, London Stock Exchange, just to give you a few examples. And the European Central Bank will also come out with a new update of its leading interest rates. We have European Central Bank meeting on Thursday here in Frankfurt. But mind you, all this will be sort of in the shadow of the French elections. This is really what everyone on the markets is focusing on.
Well, thanks again, Conrad, for the updates there. Hope to see you next week. And, of course, do have yourself a great weekend.